What if the Roman Empire never fell? What if it survived the barbarian invasions, the civil wars, the religious schisms, and the political corruption? How would the world be different today if Rome still ruled? This is a question that has fascinated historians, writers, and dreamers for centuries. The Roman Empire was one of the most powerful and influential civilizations in history, spanning over 1,000 years and covering most of Europe, North Africa, and parts of Asia. It left behind a legacy of law, culture, art, architecture, language, and technology that still shapes our world today. But what if it never ended? What if it continued to expand and evolve, adapting to new challenges and opportunities? How would history unfold differently? How would the Roman Empire deal with the rise of Islam, the discovery of America, the Industrial Revolution, the World Wars, and the modern era? In this video, we will explore some possible scenarios of how the Roman Empire could have survived and what impact it would have on the world. We will use historical facts, logical reasoning, and creative imagination to create a plausible alternative history. Of course, this is not a definitive answer, but rather a speculative exercise. There are many factors and variables that could affect the outcome of history, and we cannot account for all of them. But we can try to make some educated guesses based on what we know. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this journey into a world where Rome never fell. Scenario 1. The Empire reforms. One of the main reasons why the Roman Empire collapsed was because it became too large and complex to manage effectively. The empire faced constant threats from external enemies and internal rebellions. The emperors were often weak, corrupt, or incompetent. The army was overstretched and underpaid. The economy was burdened by inflation and taxation. The society was divided by class, religion, and ethnicity. The culture was decadent and immoral. But what if some of these problems were solved by reforming the empire? What if some emperors were more visionary and capable than others? What if they implemented changes that improved the administration, military, economy, society, and culture of the empire? One possible scenario is that after the death of Constantine the Great in 337 AD, who was the first emperor to convert to Christianity and legalize it in the empire, his successors continued his policies of religious tolerance and political division. Instead of fighting each other for power, they agreed to share it peacefully among 4 co-emperors, each ruling over a quarter of the empire: Constantius II in Asia Minor, Dalmatius in Thrace, Constantine II in Gaul, and Constans in Italy. They also appointed 2 junior co-emperors called Caesars to assist them in their regions. This system of tetrarchy, or rule by 4, was first established by Diocletian in 284 AD as a way to deal with the crisis of the 3rd century, when the empire faced multiple invasions, usurpations, plagues, famines, and civil wars. Diocletian divided the empire into 2 halves, the East and the West, each ruled by an Augustus, senior emperor, and a Caesar, junior emperor. He also reformed the administration by creating new provinces and dioceses, increasing the size and efficiency of the bureaucracy. He reformed the military by increasing its numbers and professionalism. He reformed the economy by stabilizing the currency and imposing price controls. He reformed the society by enforcing loyalty to the emperor through ceremonies and propaganda. He reformed the culture by restoring traditional Roman values and persecuting Christians. However, Diocletian's reforms did not last long after his abdication in 305 AD. His successors fought each other for power until Constantine emerged victorious in 312 AD. Constantine reversed some of Diocletian's reforms by favoring Christianity over paganism and reunifying the empire under his sole rule. But he also kept some of them by maintaining a large army and bureaucracy and moving his capital from Rome to Byzantium, later renamed Constantinople, in 330 AD. In our scenario, Constantine's successors followed his example by keeping both aspects of Diocletian's reforms, division and unification. They divided the empire into 4 parts to make it easier to govern: but they also maintained a common bond of loyalty and cooperation among them. They respected each other's authority and territory, but they also consulted each other on major decisions and policies. They delegated power to their subordinates, but they also supervised them closely. They balanced the interests of the different regions, religions, and cultures of the empire, but they also promoted a sense of Roman identity and pride. This system of tetrarchy worked well for several decades, as the empire enjoyed stability, prosperity, and security. The co-emperors defended their borders from external enemies such as the Persians, the Huns, the Goths, and the Vandals. They also suppressed internal rebellions such as the revolt of Magnentius in 350 AD and the usurpation of Julian in 361 AD. They supported each other in times of crisis and celebrated each other in times of triumph. They fostered a culture of learning and innovation, patronizing scholars, artists, and engineers. They built magnificent monuments, roads, aqueducts, and fortifications. They reformed the laws and institutions of the empire, making them fairer and more efficient. The co-emperors also managed to reconcile the religious differences within the empire. They recognized that Christianity was the dominant faith among their subjects, but they also respected the rights of the pagans and the Jews. They convened councils and synods to settle the doctrinal disputes among the Christians. They promoted a moderate form of Christianity that was compatible with Roman values and traditions. They discouraged fanaticism and intolerance among all religions. They encouraged dialogue and cooperation among the different faiths. The empire continued to flourish under this system of tetrarchy until the end of the 4th century AD. By then, it had reached its peak of power and glory. It had expanded its territory to include North Africa, Egypt, Syria, Mesopotamia, Armenia, Anatolia, Spain, and Britain. It had a population of about 70 million people, making it one of the largest and most diverse empires in history. It had a GDP of about 20% of the world's total, making it one of the richest and most advanced empires in history. It had a culture that was a blend of Greek, Roman, Jewish, Christian, Persian, Egyptian, Celtic, Germanic, and other influences, making it one of the most sophisticated and cosmopolitan empires in history. The Roman Empire was truly a wonder of the world. This is one possible way that the Roman Empire could have survived. Of course, there are many other ways that history could have changed. In the next part of this video, we will explore another scenario. What if the empire split into two? Stay tuned for more. Scenario 2. The empire splits. Another possible scenario is that the Roman Empire did not reform, but rather split into two separate empires, the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. This actually happened in history, but what if it happened earlier and more peacefully? One possible scenario is that after the death of Constantine the Great in 337 AD, his three sons, Constantine II, Constantius II, and Constans, divided the empire among themselves. Constantine II took Gaul, Britain, and Spain. Constantius II took Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. Constans took Italy, Africa, and Illyricum. They agreed to respect each other's borders and authority, but they also pursued their own interests and policies. The three brothers soon faced different challenges and opportunities in their respective regions. Constantine II had to deal with the invasions of the Franks, the Alemanni, and the Picts. He also had to cope with the economic decline and social unrest in his provinces. He tried to maintain the traditional Roman culture and religion in his domains, but he also faced resistance from the growing number of Christians. He became increasingly isolated and unpopular among his subjects. Constantius II had to deal with the wars against the Persians, who were trying to reclaim their lost territories in Mesopotamia and Armenia. He also had to deal with the religious disputes among the Christians, who were divided by various doctrines and sects. He favored the Arian branch of Christianity, which denied the divinity of Jesus Christ, but he also faced opposition from the Nicene branch, which affirmed it. He became increasingly involved and influential in the affairs of the church. Constans had to deal with the threats of the Goths, who were raiding across the Danube River. He also had to deal with the rebellions of his generals and governors, who were dissatisfied with his rule. He supported the Nicene branch of Christianity, but he also faced hostility from the pagans and the Arians. He became increasingly corrupt and tyrannical in his governance. The three brothers soon became rivals and enemies. They fought each other for power and territory. They interfered in each other's affairs. They plotted against each other's lives. In 340 AD, Constantine II invaded Italy to overthrow Constans, but he was killed in battle near Aquileia. In 350 AD, Constans was assassinated by one of his generals, Magnentius, who declared himself emperor in Gaul. In 353 AD, Constantius II defeated Magnentius at the Battle of Mursa Major and became the sole ruler of the empire. However, Constantius II did not enjoy his victory for long. He faced new challenges and enemies from within and without. He had to deal with the revolt of his cousin Julian, who was proclaimed emperor by his troops in Gaul in 360 AD. He had to deal with the invasion of the Sassanid king Shapur II, who captured several cities in Mesopotamia and Armenia in 363 AD. He had to deal with the discontent of his subjects, who were unhappy with his taxation, conscription, persecution, and favoritism. Constantius II died in 361 AD while marching to confront Julian. He left no heirs or successors. He left behind a divided and weakened empire. But what if he did not die? What if he survived and reached a compromise with Julian? What if he decided to split the empire into two halves, one for himself and one for Julian? What if he recognized that the empire was too large and diverse to be ruled by one man? One possible scenario is that Constantius II met Julian at Chalcedon in 361 AD and agreed to divide the empire between them. Constantius II kept the eastern half of the empire, which included Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Armenia, and Anatolia. Julian took the western half of the empire, which included Gaul, Britain, Spain, Italy, Africa, and Illyrica. They agreed to respect each other's borders and authority, but they also pursued their own interests and policies. The two emperors soon faced different challenges and opportunities in their respective regions. Constantius II continued to fight against the Persians, who were still trying to reclaim their lost territories in Mesopotamia and Armenia. He also continued to support the Arian branch of Christianity, which was dominant in his domains. He tried to maintain a strong central control over his provinces, but he also allowed some degree of autonomy and diversity among them. Julian reversed some of Constantine's reforms by restoring paganism as the official religion of his domains. He also revived some of Diocletian's reforms by decentralizing his administration and delegating power to his subordinates. He encouraged learning and culture among his subjects by patronizing scholars and artists. He expanded his territory by conquering new lands from the Germans and the Alemanni. The two empires coexisted peacefully for several decades, as they had no major conflicts or disputes. They traded and communicated with each other. They cooperated and coordinated with each other on matters of common interest and concern. They recognized and respected each other as equals and partners. The empire split into two, but it did not fall. This is another possible way that the Roman Empire could have survived. Of course, there are many other ways that history could have changed. In the next part of this video, we will explore another scenario. What if the empire collapsed and then revived? Stay tuned for more. Scenario 3. The empire collapses and revives. Another possible scenario is that the Roman Empire did not reform or split, but rather collapsed and then revived. This also happened in history, but what if it happened differently and more successfully? One possible scenario is that after the death of Constantine the Great in 337 AD, his three sons, Constantine II, Constantius II, and Constans, divided the empire among themselves. After a series of events told in the previous scenario, Constantius II became the sole ruler of the entire Roman Empire. He had to deal with the revolt of his cousin Julian, who was proclaimed emperor by his troops in Gaul in 360 AD. Constantius II died in 361 AD while marching to confront Julian. He left no heirs or successors. He left behind a divided and weakened empire. But what if he did not die? What if he survived and reached a compromise with Julian? What if he decided to abdicate and retire to a monastery? What if he left Julian as his heir and successor? One possible scenario is that Constantius II met Julian at Chalcedon in 361 AD and agreed to abdicate in his favor. Constantius II retired to a monastery in Cappadocia, where he spent his remaining years in prayer and penance. Julian became the sole ruler of the empire. Julian was a remarkable emperor. He was a brilliant scholar, a brave soldier, a wise ruler, and a charismatic leader. He reversed some of Constantine's reforms by restoring paganism as the official religion of his domains. He also revived some of Diocletian's reforms by decentralizing his administration and delegating power to his subordinates. He encouraged learning and culture among his subjects by patronizing scholars and artists. He expanded his territory by conquering new lands from the Germans and the Alemanni. Julian also embarked on an ambitious campaign against the Persians in 363 AD. He hoped to end their threat once and for all by capturing their capital Ctesiphon and their sacred fire temple at Gundeshapur. He led a large army across Mesopotamia and defeated several Persian forces along the way. He reached Ctesiphon and besieged it for several days. But what if he did not die? What if he survived an arrow wound that pierced his chest during a skirmish near Ctesiphon? What if he recovered from his injury and continued his campaign? What if he captured Ctesiphon and Gundeshapur and forced the Persians to sue for peace? One possible scenario is that Julian survived the arrow wound that hit him on June 26, 363 AD. He was taken to his tent and treated by his physicians. He recovered from his injury and resumed his command. He captured Ctesiphon and Gundeshapur and imposed a harsh peace treaty on the Persians. He demanded that they cede their territories in Mesopotamia and Armenia to the Romans. He also demanded that they pay a large tribute and release all their Roman prisoners. He also demanded that they allow the free practice of Christianity in their lands. Julian returned to his empire as a victorious hero. He was hailed as the restorer of Roman glory and the conqueror of the East. He continued to rule with justice and wisdom. He reformed the laws and institutions of the empire, making them more fair and efficient. He fostered a culture of tolerance and harmony among the different religions and peoples of the empire. He built magnificent monuments, roads, aqueducts, and fortifications. He prepared his succession by appointing a capable heir and successor. Julian died peacefully in his bed in 378 AD, after a long and prosperous reign. He left behind a strong and united empire. The empire collapsed, but it revived. This is another possible way that the Roman Empire could have survived. Of course, there are many other ways that history could have changed. But we hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something new about the Roman Empire and its possible alternatives.